Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I would like to speak in Arabic because it's easier for me to explain the women in Syria and all the 14 years from the very bad and bad memory for there. So. نحن نعرف أنه المرأة السورية خلال 14 سنة السابقة لعبت دور كتير مهم في الحفاظ على النسيج المجتمعي من خلال دعمها للعمليات الإغاثية والحقوقية والحفاظ على الترابط المجتمعي داخل الأسرة التي تفككت لأسباب عديدة منها غياب الزوج، غياب الأب، غياب حقوقها هي كامرأة بالتعليم وبالطبابة وبالعيش كامرأة حرة بمجتمع اللي تعرض لكثير من الاضطهاد والعنف.
So we know that over more than a decade of conflict, Syrian women have assumed a vital role in maintaining the social fabric. They provided support, specifically for relief, for advocating for rights, for social cohesion, because a lot of that social cohesion was lost due to the absence of husbands and dad. So they played that role as doctors, as educators, and in many other roles.
ما رح استفيد بمعاناة المرأة السورية، ولكن بدي أقول إنه هل هي اليوم بعد معاناة 14 سنة قدرت توصل للمكان اللي لازم هي تاخدها بسوريا الجديدة؟
I will not elaborate on the great suffering that Syrian women went through over 14 years, but I would like to say that now they have reached the status that they need and deserve in the Syrian community.
ما بدنا نحكي بالماضي، رح نحكي بالمستقبل. رح نحكي كيف ممكن المرأة السورية يكون إلى حضور، يكون إلى لمسة، إلى وجود ببناء سوريا الجديدة. وشو لازم نعمل لحتى تكون المرأة فعلاً إلى هذا الحضور وهي قادرة أن تكون عم تكتب تاريخ سوريا الحديث وتكون مشاركة بشكل فعال ببناء سوريا الجديدة.
So I will not go deeper into the past. I will not talk about the past. I will talk about the present and how Syrian women today can achieve this presence, can achieve this touched effect on the present, and how they can affect the history of Syria and can have effective participation.
بداية بدنا نحكي على بناء قدرات النساء. النساء أكثر من 70% من سكان المخيمات هن من النساء المعيلات اللي هن مسؤولين عن أطفالهم، مسؤولين عن تربيتهم، مسؤولين على العمل معهم. خلال الفترة السابقة تم العمل ببرامج كتير على تحسين من تعليمهم، حتى تحسين من أن يكونوا مشاركين وفعالات بالعملية السياسية، ولكن هذا لا يكفي. نحن اليوم بحاجة أن المرأة السورية تأخذ دورها ببناء قدراتها لحتى تكون عم تدخل بكافة مناحي الحياة، ونفسح لها المجال بطريقة الضغط أن هي تستلم بالمؤسسات المناصب المهمة اللي لازم هي تقود فيها من ناحية التعليم، من ناحية الطبابة، من ناحية المشاركة السياسية، ومن ناحية أيضاً التخطيط لمستقبل سوريا. وهذا الشيء كلياته بيتطلب مننا أنه نحن نكون عم نشتغل على رفع قدرات النساء الموجودين، وخاصة الفتيات الخريجات الجامعيات اللي هن بحاجة لفرص عمل. وهي الفرص العمل نحن لازم نرفع لهم قدراتهم لحتى ندخلهم على مؤسسات الدولة الهامة، يمسكوا المفاصل الهامة بالمؤسسات ويديروها. وهذا نحن خلال ال5 سنوات القادمة لازم نشتغل عليهم وبكل قوة لحتى نفسح المجال لهم إنه يكونوا متواجدين على الساحة.
So I would like to talk about building women's capacity. As you know, 70% of the people in camps are women who are supporting their children, educating and upbringing their children. And so we need to work on that. There has been some programs for educating these women for their participation in policies and politics, but this is not enough because we need to build their capacities and we need to lobby for them to have space to assume important positions in education, in politics, in planning for the future of Syria, and this requires elevating their capacities, especially fresh graduate women who are looking for job opportunities, so we can lobby for them to assume job opportunities in the state's institutions to manage them over the next 5 years.
كمان يجب أنه نحن نراجع التشريعات المؤقتة والدائمة لضمان إدماجها بالعملية السياسية. يعني إحنا اليوم إذا بدنا نقول الكوتا 30-40% من النساء، فهذا لازم يكون مكتوب ويجبر الجهات السياسية الموجودة أنه هي تفرضها على أرض الواقع وتكون إلى حضور ووجود بكل مؤسسات الدولة مناحية. وهذا الشيء لازم يسن ضمن التشريعات والقوانين اللي عم ينشغل عليها، وهذا الشيء نحن لازم نطالب فيه كنساء ونشرع له.
So we need to revise laws and legislations to guarantee that women are integrated and engaged in the political process. So right now with the quota system that we're working with is 30 to 40% women. This has to be drafted, has to be written in the law so that we can impose it in reality and in all institutions of the state by the law. We need to demand it.
يعني نحن بالوطن العربي بشكل عام، ويعني مجتمعاتنا ذكورية، فإذا ما كان صوتنا عالي وعم ندعم بعض لحتى ناخد الأماكن اللي نحن نستحق نكون فيها، فهذا الشيء نحن ما حيخلينا نوصل للمكان اللي بدنا إياه. فنحن بنريد إنه مو بس السوريات يحكوا، كل النساء بالعالم وبالوطن العربي يحكوا ويساعدونا لحتى نحن ناخد المكان اللي نحن لازم نوصل له.
So all over the Arab world, we know that we have a patriarchal society, a male-dominated society. This is why we need to raise our voices and support each other to assume this position. Otherwise, we will never take the space or this position. And this does not apply only to Syrian women. It applies to all Arab women who need to support each other.
يعني أنا عم بتخيل المرأة السورية وهي صارت جزء طبيعي وعادي في العملية السياسية، ليس مجرد حضور بل قوة مؤثرة. ليست مجرد أنه نحن وضعنا بهذا المكان امرأتين وبالاسم بس، يعني كمنظر هيك كديكور، لا، نحن بدنا إياهم فعلا يكونوا موجودين بالأماكن، عم بيكونوا فعالات وعم بيكونوا مؤثرين. ونحن اليوم بدأنا بسوريا أنه المرأة بدأت تاخذ نصيبها، ولكن ليس كافي. نحن بحاجة لنكون أكثر وأقوى وموجودين بأماكن صنع القرار السياسي والمدني بسوريا. أنا بطمح أنه شوف النساء السوريات رؤساء بلديات، بطمح شوفهم بالبرلمان، بطمح شوفهم بالقيادات النسائية وقادرين أنهم يأثروا على الرأي العام.
So I believe that the Syrian woman has become a natural part of the Syrian society, not just by being there as an attending observer. No, they should be an influential force, a power, and not just like to fill a vestigial attendance to fill these positions. No, they need to be effective, they need to be influential. I believe that in Syria, women have started taking their share, but it's still not enough. We need to act more, act stronger in order to engage women in decision making, be it political or civil, and we would really like to see them as heads of municipalities, representatives in the parliaments, leaders, and so on and so forth.
بدي أختم وأكد على أن إشراك النساء بالعملية السياسية وعملية صنع القرار لا يهدد دور الرجال، وإنما هو بيوسع آفاق الحل السياسي وبيجعل السلام أكثر ديمومة وشمولية.
I would like to conclude by saying that engaging women in policy making and decision making does not threaten men. No, it expands the horizon for political solutions and makes further opportunities for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Houda. It was a great finishing sentence. Having more women in policy spheres does not threaten men. I think the headline of this session. So I would like to give the floor to Maria Abde.
Okay, thank you very much, and I think I will start from where Houda ended, but also from what Tarek was mentioning this morning on what we missed in conflict resolution. So he said we missed women, but I think more deeply in a lot of discussion on conflict resolution, we are missing the details. And we are missing the root causes of the conflict. We are avoiding the difficult questions, and that's what women bring to the table. And I would like to share with you, as you asked me, some from my experience as practitioner. At Women Now for Development, in our work, we establish safe spaces for women, but not safe spaces in the meaning of only humanitarian. We prefer to call them political spaces and courageous spaces when women can share. They have access to education, but also share their needs. And in the early 2014, the women coming to our center, after a few years of coming to the center, exchanging, start to talk about something that is very close to their heart, was the missing persons in Syria. And it was something that wasn't on the table of political discussion at that time. So women brought it to the table, brought the missing persons, the detainees. And even though most of the detainees were arrested by the Syrian regime, but the women were very clear from the beginning that they don't want anyone missing. They don't want anyone detained in Syria. So they start asking and searching for the missing in all prisons. And that is something very important for justice and peace in Syria, not only in Syria, but everywhere. And since this morning, I have been hearing people talking about women's role in healing. And for me, healing is very important in justice. I think we have been talking about justice for so long, about criminal justice, but not talking about other area of justice, social justice, economic justice, missing person. What does it mean to have a missing person? Politically, socially, it all impacts the life of people or the life of their beloved one. So coming back to the spaces, women starting gathering together, establishing groups. One of them is Families for Freedom, who today have more than 200 women gathering together, searching for the missings and imposing their vision on the table. They also joined other group, also like Caesar's family, and created Sednaya's prisoners, and creating a charter for justice and truth in Syria. For me, this kind of groups are very important in not only women inclusion, but inclusion of the missing voices, because women will represent who are the persons who are missing. When I'm talking missing, not only the detainees, but they will talk about the people with disabilities. They will talk about children. They will talk about the right of people who are not around the table. They will not put them on the menu. They will be their voice. And that's something I have learned about working with women rights activists. So that is something that is, for me, very important on learning also how to avoid the repetition of the conflict. When the woman will say, we want a new Syria where no one is arrested without a reason, when no one will go missing, they are establishing the new roles for a lasting peace in Syria, and that is very important. Another examples was our work in research and advocacy. We have been doing a lot of research on the impact of conflict on women, on gender impact of conflict, but also on one perspective on solutions. So one recent research we did was on the gender impact of chemicals attacks done by the Syrian regime in 2013. And the results were, it was a very painful research, to be honest with you, but maybe I can share two things from the research. One is how women were impacted by the chemicals attacks because the lack of female rescue. Because when you received chemicals, you need to put your clothes off. So male rescuers were not. Didn't feel, they were feeling ashamed to put women clothes out, and there were enough female rescuers. So, and this is a direct price of depriving women from education and depriving women to work on health sector. So we were able to put a direct link between this women lack of access to work and to study, and the impact the lethal impact of this, but also on a day where we never saw that we will be able to achieve justice in Syria. Today, we are discussing, the new government is discussing criminal justice or criminal accountability toward the former regime, but also this research led by women show us that accountability is important, but it is not enough. The research showed the health impact of the chemical attack and the long-term impact of the chemicals attacks on women, genetical, but also on every person who has been impacted by these attacks. So they are putting on the table the issue of justice beyond the criminal justice, that people need acknowledgement of their suffering. That is very important. We need reparations. So they are bringing other issues that are very, very, very important. And I think when we discuss chemicals attack, we have the experience in Iraq when Halabja were completely forgotten, when Saddam Hussein's attack were completely forgotten, and people thought that Saddam Hussein is down, that is enough. But actually that wasn't enough for the victims that until today are suffering from the chemicals attack. And I don't know if we can make a direct connection here, maybe I'm ready, but when you see the Kurdish people joining ISIS, most of them were from Halabja, from the area who went through a huge suffering, who has been not recognized. There is no academic research on this. Maybe I'm going too fast on this, but for me there is a connection when your suffering is not recognized, and people joining terrorist group or other way of making justice for them, because even terrorist groups, I don't like this nomination anymore. I think so that is another example. So today in Syria, I don't know. I still have time. Maybe, okay, very quickly, today we have a huge opportunity in Syria, really, and I think when I'm also very proud of, I have seen a lot of Syrian women also taking forward the difficult questions. So in the late of January, I was invited to facilitate a discussion between 50 organizations on transitional justice, because they saw that, and 4 women actually planned the gathering, and said, like, we need to push the new government to work on transitional justice, because we really want to use this opportunity of having a new government to build a new Syria. And building a new Syria, that means bringing justice to everyone. So for me, my lesson learned from all of this, that women bring to the table difficult questions. They are not afraid of challenging their narrative, and which is unfortunate, but they also continue to move even without funding. When they have something in mind, they will go toward their goal, whatever it costs. So I have some hope for a new Syria. I will stop here. I still have a lot of comments, but I think we can discuss more during the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, both of you. It will be great to hear from you
how do you see diaspora women, Syrian women, returning to Syria and taking part in roles in diplomacy, maybe as members of the parliament, leading political parties, community leaders? What are the impediments, or are you hopeful? How do you see that? How do you see the potential of diaspora women in Syria, in Istanbul, Beirut, Berlin, in different European capitals to go back and take part in this? Because we have seen in the morning how crucial it is, and how empowering and how incredible it is to have women in diplomacy, for instance, to have women on board in diplomacy. So it will be great to hear about the potential later. So now I will turn to Fulya Memişoğlu from Turkey to hear more about the Syrian woman perspective. As you know, Turkey hosts a lot of Syrian refugees for many years now, and for me, being someone from Turkey, it makes me proud to think that some of those women are gonna be. I mean, they suffered a lot. They went through lots of difficulties, and still possibly. But some of these Syrians, women and men, actually are taking part in new Syrian governance. So, yeah, please, Fulya, go ahead.
I'm really happy to be part of this conversation, especially with fellow Syrian participants. I think apart from my research, I also feel lucky to be a university lecturer, because I have had a lot of students, Syrian, coming from Syria, and I have had the chance to also see their progress over the years. But lately I have been focusing on I've been conducting some research specifically with Syrian women, trying to understand how they participate in the labor market, what are the reasons driving their participation in cases. And I mean, there's obviously remarkable resilience in the sense that they're not only navigating displacement, but they're also actively rebuilding a community life. This is especially important from the perspective of women. They engage a lot in NGOs, municipalities, public services. When you see training courses, it's usually, the participants usually comprise of women, not men. Also, it's the same for social cohesion programs. And in cases where there are not institutionalized mechanisms, they create their own ones through informal means, like through informal networks like WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups. Especially during COVID, I have seen really solid examples of this kind of solidarity among women, because they needed economic support, and they were actually trying to support each other with caregiving responsibilities through WhatsApp groups. So that was quite special. Having said this, I think Turkey missed an opportunity, but it could still do better, because only a small percentage of women are actively economically active, especially in the participation of formal labor. But my recent research has shown me there are also many women who have become entrepreneurs. This is not formal participation in the labor market, but there are lots of, for instance, social media influencers with over 2 million followers. I was really impressed. Some of my students introduced me to them. And also, they're kind of changing gender roles within homes as well. Like, many women are now taking care of the household economies, which they haven't done before. So all these different economic roles tell me how their confidence is boosted when they actually start participating more in socioeconomic life, and whether these shifting gender dynamics could actually provide us any insights for post-conflict Syria. So from my perspective, I could offer 2 lessons from Turkey. First, integration or reintegration. These don't really happen with formal institutions. They usually open through bottom-up initiatives. So everyday efforts to rebuild community ties, peer-led initiatives like, for example, women's local mediation groups, I've seen they have been quite impactful. So these could actually offer practical examples. Any support to grassroots initiatives, in my opinion, efforts would actually foster community trust, which I think at the moment is quite crucial in Syria. Second, I'm a bit sort of not skeptical, but cautious about political participation, because that's a long process, right? It's kind of a bit demanding for what is actually happening in Syria right now, but then we can definitely think about socioeconomic participation, which could also put women in a more meaningful place in the society. And such reintegration plans, I think, could easily support women in their everyday forms of leadership, acknowledging their informal contributions to society, community well-being, rather than maybe targeting for a very demanding political participation at this very early stage. And finally, the decision to return, I think it's very layered and very personal. So, okay, there are practical factors like shelter, access to services. These are obviously very important for any refugee. It doesn't really matter if, I mean, gender does not really play a role in that. But, I mean, women also have different expectations right now, like autonomy, dignity, recognition, whether what they have actually achieved during their displacement. Many have experienced personal transformation. Some have broken away from abusive relationships. Some have started working for the first time. So I think, obviously, they will be asking whether returning to Syria is safe, but they will also be asking whether their contribution will be valued. So I guess that also makes quite an, I mean, yeah. And obviously not all women will return, as I'm speaking from the perspective of women. And in Turkey, there's a big diaspora in making at the moment. So they will be contributing to Syria, not just physically, but I mean through digital platforms, different civic engagements. I think this should also be taken care of, like how those diaspora networks will be incorporated into this new policy-making process. For me, that's also very recent, so I'm thinking about them, and I would be very happy to hear your perspectives. But I think those transnational engagements also are very important, and we need to be elaborating on them more often. And yes, I mean, their contributions are often invisible, but they do contribute a lot, and I'm sure they'll be playing an important role in the peace-building process. Thank you.